that you may find useful, as many of you will surely go on to be flag officers. First, always maintain a keen sense of situational awareness. As senior leaders, everything you do will be closely watched, and I am not immune. As many of you saw the result of the photograph of me at Lafayette Square last week, that sparked a national debate about the role of the military in civil society. I should not have been there. My presence in that moment and in that environment created a perception of the military involved in domestic politics. As a commissioned uniformed officer, it was a mistake that I have learned from, and I sincerely hope we all can learn from it. We who wear the cloth of our nation come from the people of our nation, and we must hold dear the principle of an apolitical military that is so deeply rooted in the very essence of our republic. And this is not easy. It takes time and work and effort, but it may be the most important thing each and every one of us does every single day. And my second piece of advice is very simple. Embrace the Constitution. Keep it close to your heart. It is our North Star. It's our map to a better future. Though we are not a perfect union, believe in the United States. Believe in our country. Believe in your troops. And believe in our purpose. Few other nations have been able to change for the greater good, and that is because of the rights and values embedded in our Constitution. The freedoms guaranteed to us in the Constitution allow people to demand change, just as the peaceful protesters are doing all across the country. That is why we serve in the military. On day one, you and I, we all swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution and its essential American principle that all men and women are born free and equal. That is the foundation of our military ethos, who we are as service members and as an institution. All of us in uniform are willing to die for that idea, the idea that is America. And so we must also be willing to live for that idea, for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and freedom to vote, and freedom to believe as you wish in your religion. These are essential freedoms that are the cornerstone of our country. We have also seen over the last 2.5 weeks an especially intense and trying time for America. I am outraged by the senseless and brutal killing of George Floyd. His death amplified the pain, the frustration, and the fear that so many of our fellow Americans live with day in and day out. The protests that have ensued not only speak to his killing, but also to the centuries of injustice towards African Americans. What we are seeing is the long shadow of our original sin in Jamestown 401 years ago, liberated by the Civil War, but not equal in the eyes of the law until 100 years later in 1965. We are still struggling with racism, and we have much work to do. Racism and discrimination, structural preferences, patterns of mistreatment, unspoken and unconscious bias have no place in America, and they have no place in our armed forces. We must, we can, and we will do better. And we should all be proud that the vast majority of protests have been peaceful. Peaceful protest means that American freedom is working. And I'm also proud of the response of our National Guard forces, who provided excellent support to local law and state enforcement under the control of state governors in more than 30 states across the country. We never introduced federal troops in the streets of America as a result of the combined efforts of the National Guard and law enforcement at quelling the violence and de-escalating very, very tense situations. We all know that our system in the United States is imperfect, full of passionate debate, and continually evolving. And we in the military will continue to protect the rights and freedoms of all the American people. The foundational value that underpins American rights embedded in the Constitution is that all people, no matter who you are born free and equal. And I want to address this value in the context of our military. Our military has a mixed record on equality. We fought World War II with a racially segregated military. The Tuskegee Airmen are just one example of courageous men who fought for freedoms they themselves did not enjoy at home. Racial segregation of the armed forces ended in 1948, and today the military has come to reflect the diversity of our nation, the strength of our nation. In recent decades, millions of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have been part of cohesive teams consisting of people of different races, genders, religions, and orientations, working to accomplish their mission in peace and war all over the globe. Our troops demonstrate every day their ability to thrive as a result of their diversity. The diversity of America is one of the core strengths of our nation, and it is therefore a core strength of our military.
The men and women of this agency, thank you. Thank you for all you've done over the course of these last 2 weeks. I know you're tired. I know you're stressed out. I know you feel underappreciated. But it's the work that you've done that have helped bring order back to this city. You look at what happened, starting at the Barclays Center on May 29th, Friday night. What was supposed to be a straight peaceful demonstration, by 6:30 at night, officers were being pelted by rocks, bottles, paintballs, fireworks were shot at us. Fires were set on the Barclays Center, and you responded. You did your job. You made arrests. You brought order back to that area by 11 o'clock at night. But it continued. It continued with attacks on the 8-8 precinct, the 7-9 precinct, and all through Brooklyn. Molotov cocktails thrown at cars. Our RMPs set on fire. Attacks on our police officers throughout the night, but you continue to respond to bring order into the streets. It continued on Saturday. On Saturday on Tilden Avenue, police officers dragged out of their car. On Bedford Avenue that night, RMPs on fire. Buses stuck in the middle of the street. Cinder blocks thrown at police officers. More fireworks shot at, but you moved forward. And you took care of it. Sunday and Monday brought thousands, yes, and I mean thousands, of people running through the streets, looting, hitting stores, but you were there. You were making arrests, and you did a fantastic, fantastic job. There are many critics, many armchair who look at the job you did and criticize it and say you didn't do something right. Are we perfect? No. Investigations. The Attorney General's office is going to look at what we've done. Department of Investigations is going to look at what we've done. Prosecutors' offices have already started to look at what we've done. It's important that they all understand the context of what was going on during those 4 days. The attacks on our police officers, the stresses that you were under each and every day to bring order to the streets. I was there with you. I saw it. I know what it is. And I will make sure whoever is doing an investigation understands what was going on those streets for those 4 days. But you did bring order back to the city. And now we're having peaceful protests. There are tens of thousands of people on the streets right now expressing their views, expressing their anger, and it's happening peacefully right now because of what you went through for those 4 days. We understand we need to move together. The members of the NYPD know better than anyone we only move forward with our communities. We need our communities to go forward. We need the cops in our communities to be together. We've done this in 2014. Neighborhood policing started, and we worked together to make this city safe. Everyone out there, hold your heads up high. You did your job. There will be investigations, but we will get through this all together. Together as a police department and together with the millions of New Yorkers who truly appreciate you and need you each and every day on those streets. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done, and I promise you, I will be there to make sure people understand what you went through.
And today our honorable guest, State Senator Luis Sepulveda, is Bangladeshi renowned elected official. Before he was a assemblyman, and right now he is serving the community as a state senator, district 32nd state district. So Luis bhai, welcome to our channel TT. How are you?
Thank you so much. First time on. I hope it's not the last time. But thank you for having me here today.
Thank you very much. So first of all, we have a couple of issues with you because you are serving the community as elected official. So
Yes.
our question is, we wanna ask you about the, the